Amongst the ever-growing list of Marvel movies and TV shows, Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. on ABC sticks out like a sore thumb. It's only loosely connected to the movies, it has no connection to the Netflix shows, its viewership has dropped off substantially since its premiere, and the first half of the first season was very generic. However, over the past couple of years, Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. has evolved from a disorganized, tonally inconsistent trudge to one of the best serialized stories on television and a true highlight of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you gave S.h.i.e.L.D. a shot in the beginning and didn't like it, or never gave it a chance to begin with, now is as good a time as any to pick up this very underrated piece of the Marvel Universe. Today on TVJunkie, why you should watch Marvel's Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D.
We work the cases that S.h.i.e.L.D. hasn't classified. It's not just spy versus spy anymore. The whole world's in on the action.
Marvel's Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D.
Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D., like the name suggests, follows a ragtag team of spies affiliated with the organization that first brought the Avengers together. This crew includes the formerly deceased Agent Coulson, rebel hacker Skye, seasoned veteran Melinda May, adorable British scientists Fitz and Simmons, less adorable British sarcasm machine Lance, his ex-wife Bobby, S.h.i.e.L.D. mechanic Mac, admittedly generic Dr. Lincoln, and finally Agent Grant Ward, who I'll talk about a bit later. About half of these characters don't appear until the second season. Now, this is a very large ensemble cast, and while initially Coulson, played by the returning Clark Gregg, was sold as the show's lead, he has since fallen into the well-oiled ensemble. Each one of these characters gets a chance to shine once every couple episodes, and no character truly overshadows another in the larger picture. There's enough badassery to go around here. On top of the core characters, there's a very large roster of recurring players that filters out throughout the show. Some characters come from the movies, some from the comics, some created just for the show, but the show has built up its own corner of the Marvel Universe. So what is Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. about anyways? It's a very hard question to answer because it is hyper-serialized to the point where the plot of the show is completely unrecognizable, let's say 5 or 10 episodes apart. There's multiple arcs each season with different characters, and to talk about what happens in the later seasons of the show is to spoil what happened in the very first season, and while I won't talk about those plot details now, I will brush up on them near the end of the video, but to suffice it to say, there are several game-changing moments in this show every season that ensures the plot is constantly evolving, never able to turn back to the way things were before. As the show progresses, it becomes more comfortable with comic book elements and introduces aspects of the Marvel comics not yet explored on the big screen. As for tying into the Marvel films, it does happen, not often, and honestly the show seems more interested in forging its own path rather than relying on the films, as it should. I would compare Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. to a roller coaster with plenty of twists and loops, and just when you think the ride is over, when the roller coaster gives you a couple seconds of breath, it throws you right back into the action. Every time the dust settles, an earthquake comes up and shakes the status quo. What that means is that every episode is important. You cannot skip episodes. There are, except for the first season, there is essentially no filler in this show. So 22 episodes a year required viewing. Additionally, the show's long-form storytelling allows Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. to explore more complex narratives than you can cram into a 2.5-hour movie, although Civil War is absolutely trying its hardest. Now, being a Marvel property, there's an expectation for high levels of action and spectacle in Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. And while the show does feature action and spectacle, it's more on the scale of television. Of course, working on a television budget, the show is a bit more limited in its scope. That said, it is still one of the more ambitious programs on television. The action sequences, particularly the hand-to-hand combat ones, are among the best that television has to offer. Every couple of weeks, there's a signature action sequence with either slow-mo shots, elite choreography, single-take sequences, and in seasons 2 and 3 when the agents are exposed to, well, extraordinary people. I'm not going to go further. The show takes full advantage of the possibilities of a comic book universe. In particular, Agent May, whose subtle internal anguish is well displayed by Ming-Na Wen, has many memorable martial arts sequences. As for spectacle, the show's special effects are mostly decent, mainly saved for creating environments or showcasing S.h.i.e.L.'s transportation units, and they do a good job of making the scale of the show appear bigger than the average television program. However, the effects still pale in comparison to The Flash, which, without a doubt, has the best special effects in superhero television. Early on, Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. tried to blend its sci-fi elements with procedural espionage plots, but in seasons 2 and 3, the show has doubled down on the sci-fi. Biomechanical limbs, alien artifacts, other planets, Patton Oswalt, S.h.i.e.L.D. has become a much better show once it stopped trying to mix science fiction with real life in its early episodes. Now it fully embraces the weirdness of the larger Marvel universe. Now, like I indicated, most of the first season of Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. is lackluster, and it's because the plot was so slow initially. The show was treading water right until the point that Captain America: The Winter Soldier released, and in a few minutes I will go into some details on why that movie is very important to the show and changed the entire dynamic of Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. moving forward, for the better. Now, I don't generally like spoilers, but in this case I feel it's necessary because new viewers, I would much rather you just skip the awful parts of the first season and catch up to where the show is really running on full throttle. So in this case, I am going to give spoilers of the show through episode 17 of the first season.
Spoilers!
Now, as I'm sure many of you know, the organization of S.h.i.e.L.D. fell apart 2 years ago in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, where it's revealed that S.h.i.e.L.D. had been a front for the evil organization Hydra. This twist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe completely changed the plot of Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. Before, it was about a group of misfits and goofs traveling the world handling missions, but once the organization fell, the group became fugitives and have since spent their time working in the shadows, hiding from law enforcement, and trying to better the world without their top-notch spy resources. Hydra, now out in the open in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, became the primary enemy moving forward. The other major revelation from the Hydra fallout is that Grant Ward, Coulson's top agent and Skye's love interest, was an embedded Hydra agent all along. This was a fantastic twist that turned Ward, at the time considered a very generic character, into a wild card moving forward. Operating with his own agenda, sometimes aligning with Hydra, S.h.i.e.L.D., or other interested parties, Ward becomes one of the most fascinating characters in the MCU, serving a greater purpose than simply being a spy for S.h.i.e.L.D. In the following years, Ward's evolving allegiances helped Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. become a more captivating program. The fall of S.h.i.e.L.D., the rise of Hydra, and the betrayal of Ward, all of which happened 2/3 into the first season, drastically altered the show for the better. Now, there is still value to the episodes of the show that came out before The Winter Soldier. In fact, a major subplot of the first 2/3 of the season is the fact that Coulson was killed in the Avengers, but seems to be walking around just fine and dandy. So yes, the early episodes of the show eventually get to that plot point, and the conclusion to that arc is actually very interesting because it does set up later seasons of Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. If you're going to watch the show for the first time, I recommend watching episodes 1, 5, and 10 forward from the first season, so you can pretty much jettison most of those first 10 episodes, because once episode 10 comes around, you start finding out a bit more about Coulson, and the show again doesn't truly pick up steam until episodes 16 and 17, but once episode 16 rolls around, the show just puts its foot on the pedal, never lets off the throttle, and it's been speeding up until today, has been renewed for a 4th season, and hopefully a couple more years after that.
We'll never get ahead of the consequences that you, that S.h.i.e.L.D. have set in motion.
Like a ripple in the water.
This ripple won't fade. It'll grow and grow until it's a tidal wave.
So there you go, that's a look at Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. Please check it out. You can watch seasons 1 and 2 right now on Netflix. Season 3 will be arriving on Netflix some point over the summer. Season 3 can also currently be watched on Hulu, but of course you want to watch this show in chronological order. Before I go, I just want to wish all of my loyal viewers a very happy Cinco de Mayo. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please comment below, subscribe to my channel if you have not done so already. Stay tuned for more. Hold on. Stay tuned for more here on TVJunkie. Oh god, I gotta go. Where's my Civil War ticket? Where's my...